You know, not that I have sympathy, but it's real. I've never seen this happen before. I've never seen the President of the United States of America publicly troll the idiot who tried to assassinate him. And by the way, you know, everybody's talking about this guy. This guy was a teacher of the year or teacher of the month or whatever, and he was there's video footage now. Apparently he was like a what they call him an engineer. They said he was an engineer. He was like an engineering tutor or an engineering professor or something. And they say that he was like a super genius or something like that. Here he is in high school or college or something. This guy Cole Allen. Cole Allen, by the way, is the guy that they tried to they subdued. They call him the alleged assassin, but like, dude, I mean, come on, we watched him run in. He had guns. He shot the guy. I mean, we know there were like a bajillion witnesses. Wolf Blitzer knows it was him, but Wolf Blitzer still calling him alleged. Like, Wolf Blitzer went on the phone and talked about exactly what he saw verbatim, and CNN still calling him alleged. But you know, that's neither here nor there. So this guy Cole Allen, president. And they take him down, and he's laying on the floor of the Hilton Hotel. They strip him down like he's naked. I don't know what that. I didn't know that was protocol. I guess when you're maybe an attempted assassin, they have to strip you down if the White House is like everyone in the White House is there. Maybe they're looking for, you know, I guess you would call it the explosive devices or something. So he's tackled in the Hilton. He's stripped down, and then I guess it gets cold, right? So they wrap him in one of those tinfoil blankets that they use for survival, like a survival blanket, or FEMA has them. I think they use them on the space shuttle and whatnot. I used to have them when we would go camping as Boy Scouts. But basically, they wrap him in this. So he's naked. He's wrapped in a blanket. Then they lean him up against a marble column, and they start taking photos of him. And then like Donald Trump and everyone's posting it all over. I'm telling you, this photo looks to me, this guy is supposedly a genius engineering student and teacher from California who has a what do you call it, like an evil manifesto that he writes, like some kind of, you know, high IQ individual that just snaps. And then he plots out this illustrious, elaborate plan to travel across the country unchecked with multiple weapons, burst into the Hilton, run down the aisle and shoot everybody, including the president of the United States. That was his big plan. And at the end of the day, he kills absolutely nobody, and he gets his picture taken dressed up like a Chipotle burrito. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I see it differently than the media. This to me looks like, I don't know if you know Chipotle, but every now and then they'll do like, you know, free burrito day, like come in with any tattoo and you get a free burrito, or if your name's Linda, you get a free burrito, or dress up like your favorite whatever, you get a free burrito. This to me looks like a Chipotle gimmick, like dress up as a burrito and you get a free burrito. Fun fact, that's a total scam because it's between like 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock p.m. So you have to go at the least busy time when you're probably not hungry because it's too early for dinner and too late for lunch. But that's exactly what this looks like to me is, he was trying to get a free burrito from Chipotle or something. But this is the guy. This is the evil genius. This is the fella who supposedly was going to take out the president. Not just the president, but a lot of other people too, because Peter Doocy spoke to President Donald Trump, which this is amazing to me too. President Donald Trump, if you missed it over the weekend, and hello, by the way, we had a busy weekend. Saturday night, watching a movie with my wife, just literally sat down and poured myself a bourbon. Bourbon. It was a good one too. What was it? No, it was, there's no bad bourbon. That's not true. There's some awful bourbons, but I don't want to name any names. But I sat down with my wife. We were going to watch a movie. I poured myself a bourbon and I was just settling in. And then all of a sudden, that's my phone going off like crazy. And like everybody I know, I'm getting X notifications. I'm getting news notifications. I'm getting text messages from just people that are there, people that aren't there. My buddy Cody, who's helping with my campaign, texts me. He's like, I don't know if you know this. I'm like, I just saw. Thank you. So I rush. So then I drop it and I'm like, pause the movie. This was about, I guess, 8 o'clock or so. I go pause the movie. I ran into K-Trade HQ here at illustrious Mar-a-Lago in downtown Jacksonville. And I said, all right, let me get to work. Let me dig in. I turned on the news. I watched what was going on. We jumped on online. We went right to YouTube, right to Rumble. We hosted live for hours. I'm talking hours hours upon hours upon hours we were there. And it was amazing. We just watched the story unfold, how President Donald Trump wanted to come back to the ballroom. How's the thing? President Donald Trump's like, I got to come back to the ballroom. I got to finish this, what I started. And they're like, sir, you can't do that. And then there was another whole instance where, he went to the White House and there was going to be a press conference. So we had to take the press conference live. It was like midnight. By the time we got done. And then all of a sudden what happened was we wrapped up. It was like, I guess it was like 11:30, 12, and I finished my bourbon and I went to bed. But I woke up the next day bright and early to start, rehashing and seeing what else was going on and bringing you the latest information. And wouldn't you know it, I hear that Donald Trump was up early that morning, the next morning, calling reporters. Donald Trump, who's like 79, Donald Trump, 79 years old, just was at the dinner where there was an assassination attempt. The Secret Service grabbed him and rushed him off stage. He had to go to the White House, do an impromptu press conference where he was talking about everything. Then, I don't even know if he slept. He gets up in the morning. He starts calling reporters like Peter Doocy.
Talking to the president, he is, and the things that he's been hearing, he is of the understanding that this guy was trying to essentially break down the door, shoot his way through the door, and then go right up that center aisle and shoot as many people as possible.
Yeah. So he was going to run right up the center aisle, shoot as many people as possible. But instead, he got his picture taken. Wait, where'd it go? He got his picture taken dressed up like a burrito. So that's where Cole Allen. Here, I'll show you. This guy was supposed to be some kind of whiz kid, some kind of wonderkind. Listen, here's the thing.
College student Cole Allen developed a prototype for a wheelchair emergency brake.
The wheelchair brakes tend to lock the wheels, but don't actually lock the chair to the ground. The idea with this is to prevent it from moving at all.
Recent Aging into the Future conference
the wheelchair brakes are there to keep the wheelchair from moving. Because the problem with current wheelchair brakes is that they lock the wheels in place, but they do not lock the chair itself to the ground. But my wheelchair brake system is designed to do exactly that. Evidently, the wheelchair brake system didn't take off. Clearly, this was not the idea. This was not the winning idea that was going to change Cole Allen's life. The wheelchair locking mechanism that locks the entire wheelchair in place. That's what it's designed to do. Apparently, that didn't work because he ended up dressed up like a burrito if I ever committed a crime, I mean, not that I haven't committed crimes, but I commit like basic crime, like speeding, right? But if I ever committed or tried to commit a major crime and there was a photo of me dressed like a burrito, that would probably be the lowest moment of my life. I would think. And I would expect somebody to do what I would expect you guys to ridicule me. If you're watching right now, if you ever see a photo of Mark K dressed in this blanket. In fact, you know what? This could be a great Halloween costume. If I could grow some hair, which I can't, but if I could grow some hair, I could go get one of those blankets, and this could be my Halloween costume this year. I could go as Cole Allen, failed assassin and also failed wheelchair brake designer.
College student Cole Allen developed a prototype for a wheelchair emergency brake.
The wheelchair brakes tend to lock the wheels, but don't actually lock the chair to the ground.
This is an emergency brake that will lock the wheels in the chair together to the ground so that there will be no random acts of wheelchair escapiness. I don't know. I didn't know. It's probably worse for now that I thought he looked kind of like, I thought maybe he looked like one of those crazy tough guys, but now that I've heard him talk, all I can think is, God, what a dork this kid is. No wonder he failed at everything. Failed miserably. You want to know what else? Donald Trump, by the way, Donald Trump was not just calling Peter Doocy. Get this. Donald Trump called Jonathan Karl from ABC News. Jonathan Karl, who is probably one of the most anti-Trump reporters there is. Jonathan Karl, who has made millions writing anti-Trump books. Jonathan Karl, who works closely with George Snuffleupagus, who is so anti-Trump that he had to pay Donald Trump $16 million after he allegedly called him something that he wasn't on television. Not allegedly, he actually did call him that. And that's why they had to pony up the cash. Here is Jonathan Karl describing the phone call he got from President Donald Trump on Sunday morning.
John, your phone rang early this morning?
Yeah, my phone rang shortly after 7 a.m. My landline, George, actually a number that few people call, and it was President Trump calling. He was He said at first he was calling to see if I was okay with what happened last night. Are you okay? And then he reiterated many of the things he said in his press conference last night, emphasizing the unity that he felt in that moment, that he felt at the dinner before the shooting and certainly after with the people who reached out to him. And he said absolutely, and he was quite firm about this, that dinner must be rescheduled. It must be rescheduled. He knows that I was a former president of the White House Correspondents Association and had worked with him on a dinner that never actually happened back during COVID. And he was saying, we've got to get this dinner back on. It has to happen.
Yeah.
John, your phone rang early this morning?
Donald Trump calling John Carl to say, hey, how you doing? Are you okay? He wanted to talk about unity with the media. He said he felt some camaraderie. He felt like there was this amazing, togetherness finally with the media and the White House and the Republicans and the Democrats. And that lasted about 24 hours, probably, maybe a little less. I guess it was less because this interview, Donald Trump yesterday did an interview with 60 Minutes, and all the goodwill, all the good feelings, all the unity that was brought together, Nora O'Donnell from 60 Minutes just flushed that right down the toilet, man.
The so-called manifesto is a stunning thing to read, Mr. President. He appears to reference a motive in it. He writes this, quote, administration officials, they are targets. And he also wrote this, I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I was waiting for you to read that because I knew you would, because you're horrible people, horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I got associated with all stuff that has nothing to do with me. I was totally exonerated. Your friends on the other side of the plate are the ones that were involved with, let's say, Epstein or other things. But I said to myself, I'll do this interview and I read the manifesto. He's a sick person, but you should be ashamed of yourself reading that because I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President,
and I
these
was
are
never,
the gunman's words.
Excuse me. You shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace. But go ahead. Let's finish the interview.
The other thing that he wrote,
you're a horrible people. You're a horrible. That's one. It was all that morning because this all happened on Sunday. So Sunday morning he calls Jonathan Karl. He says, Jonathan Karl, there's such unity. There's such camaraderie between us and the media. Isn't there? What a great night it was. Despite everything, everybody got together really well. Hours later, he's at the White House and Nora O'Donnell brings up the manifesto. He goes, you guys are horrible people.
You're horrible people. Horrible people.
Yeah, I mean, so it was short-lived. It was there for a minute. Poof. And then just like Cole Allen's dignity, it was totally gone. Just like that. Just as quickly as you can wrap him up like a burrito and take an unflattering photo of him. It was gone. Oh, by the way, speaking of horrible people, Jimmy Kimmel from ABC, there's calls for him to resign. And I know what you're thinking. Isn't there always a call for him to resign? I'll be honest with you. I'm shocked that dude still has a job. Not just because of the terrible jokes he makes and the horrible things he says, but just because he's not funny. And as Donald Trump likes to point out, his ratings are non-existent and basically in the toilet. But for some reason, ABC, they hang on to Jimmy Kimmel. They hang on. They think that Jimmy Kimmel is some kind of, I don't know, maybe he's like maybe Jimmy Kimmel's like a charity case or something, or maybe he has something on it. Who knows? Who knows what's going on with Jimmy Kimmel and ABC, but he's still there. And he did a skit where he joked about Melania Trump becoming a widow. Now I should point out, this was before the Correspondents' Dinner, but the repercussions of it are, I mean, now that it's happened, now that this whole scenario has happened, and Jimmy Kimmel was joking about it earlier, now there are new calls for him to resign.
Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
Now, that was a joke, like I said, that was written and delivered prior. But as you can see, he was trying to mock up like he was doing the Correspondents' Dinner and there were people there and they cut to Melania and the Trump. So not only is he joking about the president being assassinated, but he's using his wife, the First Lady, to do it. So doubly bad. But I mean, the guy is, I mean, Jimmy Kimmel's just asleep. All those people at ABC are basically, well, probably Donald Trump could tell you about.
You're horrible people.
Yeah, they're
horrible people.
Horrible. They're horrible people. So Jimmy Kimmel makes that joke. There's an assassination attempt on President Donald Trump at the White House at the Correspondents' Dinner, and lo and behold, it pops back up, and now he's got beef with FLOTUS. Look at this. Melania Trump takes to X in a very, very unprecedented attack. She writes, Kimmel's hateful and violent rhetoric is intended to divide our country. His monologue about my family isn't comedy. His words are corrosive and deepens the political sickness within America. People like Kimmel shouldn't have the opportunity to enter our homes each evening to spread hate. A coward. She called him a coward. A coward. Kimmel hides behind ABC because he knows the network will keep running cover to protect him. Enough is enough. It is time for ABC to take a stand. How many times will ABC's leadership enable Kimmel's atrocious behavior at the expense of our community? Now, I did not know that in 2026, there would be a high-profile feud between Jimmy Kimmel and Melania Trump, but I am all here for it. And Melania Trump, I mean, look, you don't spend this much time married to President Donald Trump without fighting back. You don't spend this much time being married to President Donald Trump without taking matters into your own hands and speaking up for your family. And it's amazing, just truly amazing to see Melania Trump doing that. And this tweet is different on several reasons. And I know it's an X post. I get it. This is different on several reasons. Reason number one, it's the first lady who rarely ever posts on X herself. And when she does, she rarely ever attacks a member of the media and calls for their dismissal. But that's the first thing. The second thing is it's not Donald Trump on a Truth Social post. If it were Donald Trump on a Truth Social post, ABC's leadership would probably just, blow it off. ABC's lawyers would be like, we've been through this before. Jimmy Kimmel would just make a joke about it. And so because it's not Donald Trump, because it's not his Truth Social, because it's direct from the First Lady's account, this is a little bit more serious. This becomes something that is now you got to question it. Yeah. Why? I mean, yeah, it's not just Donald Trump anymore. Now he's making fun of the First Lady and saying she should expect to have her husband killed sometime in the future. I mean, that's a different scenario. In fact, Fox News, it's getting reported on. Fox News reported on it.
I've been through this before a couple of times, and
wait, that's not.
She has not.
That's not Fox News. That's President Donald Trump. Here it is, right here.
Right now, the First Lady Melania Trump apparently calling on ABC to fire Jimmy Kimmel. This appears to be in response to a segment that Kimmel aired days before the White House Correspondents' Dinner. In that segment, Kimmel said the First Lady had the glow of a, quote, expectant widow. And now we have this response. The First Lady writing on X the following, quote, Kimmel's hateful and violent rhetoric is intended to divide our country. His monologue about my family is not comedy. His words are corrosive and deepens the political sickness within America. It is time for ABC to take a stand. How many times will ABC's leadership enable Kimmel's atrocious behavior at the expense of our community, end quote. For the second time now in the past 2 weeks, the First Lady taking a public stand. A few weeks back, she made a statement asserting that the rumors about Jeffrey Epstein and connections to her were baseless. And now...
Yeah, I forgot about that. God, that was that just 2 weeks ago? That seems like so long ago. Look, this is an interesting, she's not just attacking Jimmy Kimmel. She's calling for the leaders at ABC. She's like, how long, let me make sure I don't misquote it. It's time for ABC to take a stand. How many times will ABC's leadership enable Kimmel's atrocious behavior at the expense of our community? She's calling out the head of ABC. And Brendan Carr, the FCC chairman, has already had, he's already made public statements about ABC. He's already made public statements about the affiliates, Sinclair Broadcasting and other massive Jimmy Kimmel partners who own many, many of the affiliate stations. They've already, some of them, suspended Kimmel and made demands about his show. He's basically been on parole, and now he's making assassination jokes. Not to mention the Secret Service should be jumping in on this sometime soon, but the Secret Service maybe not as quick to respond as they used to be. That's one of the big questions too. One of the big questions now is what's going on with the Secret Service. And the Secret Service, when I looked at it, I go, oh, look, the Secret Service, they responded pretty quickly. They grab JD Vance. Everyone's like, why did JD Vance get special treatment? Why was JD Vance the first one that was pulled off the stage? Why did Donald Trump take so long? In fact, the video that you've probably seen shows Secret Service rushes Vance off. He gets up and runs away. And then Donald Trump's still there with Melania. Secret Service is looking around. More guys run out with guns. A guy runs all the way to the front, stands in front of President Donald Trump. Donald Trump's taken down. They drop him. Then he crawls away. And then they say it looks like he fell, but they basically said drop. I don't know if they heard another noise or whatever, but the question was, why is it that JD Vance was taking, we understand there's a presidential line of succession. So you need to separate everybody. Mike Johnson had to run to the ladies' room and hide in there with Representative Sarah McBride or something. But anyway, that's how it all boils in. You got to protect everybody in the constitutional line of succession. But Donald Trump was asked about that. Why is it that the secret? Why were you taken out last? And here's what he said about that.
You see the security moving quickly, right, within seconds, grabbing the vice president by his coat, lifting him up, bringing him out. Then the counter assault comes in. Took 10 seconds for them to flank you, Mr. President, and then 20 seconds to get you out. It looked chaotic. At one point, you were down. What was happening?
Well, what happened is it was a little bit me. I wanted to see what was happening, and I wasn't making it that easy for him. I wanted to see what was going on. And by that time, we started to realize maybe it was a bad problem, different kind of a problem, bad one, and different than what would be normal noise from a ballroom, which you hear all the time. And I was surrounded by great people, and I probably made them act a little bit more slowly. I said, wait a minute, let me see, wait a minute. So, I'm telling guys.
Just at that moment where it looks like you go sort of down with the service, you were telling them to wait?
Well, no, what happened is then I started walking with them. I started walking, and they said, please go down on the floor. So I went down, and First Lady went down also, but we were asked to go down by the agents as I was walking. In other words,
they wanted you almost to crawl.
I was standing up, pretty much. I was standing up and then turned around the opposite direction and started pretty much walking out, pretty tall, a little bent over because I'm not looking to be standing too tall. And but I was walking out. It was about halfway there, and they said, please go down to the floor, please go down to the floor. So I dropped to the floor, so did the First Lady. Yeah, so Donald Trump's like, the Secret Service wasn't slow. I just wanted to see what was going on. I was just like, what's happening? Which, look, it's not the first time this has happened. President Donald Trump has had multiple occasions now where the Secret Service has rushed to him. He got shot in the ear. He got shot in the head. He had to fight. Remember that whole thing. This is not the first time he's been attacked. I imagine by the first time, you're like, oh my God, I got shot in the ear, and it's crazy. You're getting your shoe, you're leaving. The second time, you're playing golf, you're like, what? Oh my God, again? All right, fine. Let me go finish my round tomorrow. The third time, you're like, let me see. Where is he? I don't see anything. And the Secret Service is like, sir, you got to get out of here. And then they're like, sir, you got to get down on the ground. So they drop him to the ground, and that was the whole thing. But JD Vance, see, with JD Vance, this is all new to him. JD Vance has never, that I know of, been in a room with a potential shooter. So when JD Vance, when the Secret Service comes and gets him, he's like, I'm out. Let's go. Get me out of here. And he runs. He's like, what are you guys waiting for? But Donald Trump's like, wait a minute. I want to see if this is real or not. And Melania Trump joins him and they get her off stage. By the way, we have an update. I said that Donald Trump had not yet responded to Jimmy Kimmel. That's false. As of 9 minutes ago. Wow. This is Donald Trump posting on True Social in response to the off-color and very disturbing joke about him getting assassinated by Jimmy Kimmel. Wow. Jimmy Kimmel, who is in no way funny, as attested to by his terrible television ratings, made a statement on his show that is really shocking. He showed a fake video of the First Lady, Melania, and our son Barron like they were actually sitting in his studio listening to him speak, which they weren't and never would be. He then stated, quote, our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have the glow like an expectant widow. End quote. A day after a lunatic tried entering the ballroom of the White House Correspondents' Dinner loaded up with a shotgun, handgun, and many knives.
He was there for a very obvious and sinister reason. I appreciate that so many people are incensed by Kimmel's despicable call to violence and normally would not be responsive to anything that he said, but this is something far beyond the pale. Jimmy Kimmel should be immediately fired by Disney and ABC. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump. So you got Melania Trump telling ABC it's time to get rid of this clown show. You got Donald Trump telling ABC he should immediately be fired. Let's just for the moment check what's going on with FCC Chair Brendan Carr. Let's see if he's made any public statements about this incident yet. Nope. He wrote a letter about how it's time to build the ballroom, which we'll get to that. Well, it is. This has been a great. I mean, it's horrible whenever there's an assassination attempt, unless of course you're working on the ballroom, because now this ballroom is everybody, literally Democrats and Republicans have come together on the ballroom project now. Nothing gets the media behind a ballroom project like being in a ballroom that isn't secure and having to jump under tables and duck under chairs and potentially, face the threat of an assassin. That really, in fact, this is so stupid. The View, God, there's so much going on today. I just have to tell you, there's so much going on today. It all basically boils down to one thing.
You're horrible people. Horrible people.
Yeah, you're opposite. Sorry. But basically, The View, Anna Navarro, who I can't even. Anna Navarro from The View and from CNN, we should point out, and I want to point that out too. She's not only from The View, she's also a CNN reporter. But Anna Navarro is thankful that Republicans at the White House Correspondents' Dinner were subjected to this kind of horror, terror, and violence. Listen to this.
But now that room was full of some of the most important political leaders in the country right now.
Right.
Now they know, they've lived it in their own flesh, the fear that our school children go through.
Yes.
Now they know what it's like to have to jump under a table the way that school children jump under a desk. And we are a country that is vulnerable to this. We have now seen shootings in malls, in churches, in temples,
baseball
and Walmart.
Fields. We saw it
in baseball
with the Republicans.
And so, I still don't understand how Congress took no action after Sandy Hook, after 20 children between the ages of 6 and 7 were killed. But maybe now that they have felt the fear themselves, they will do something.
But what I don't understand
reform.
is how
this is so ridiculous. First of all, it wasn't Congress. It wasn't a congressional correspondence dinner. It was a bunch of reporters. Yeah, there were some Congress people there. Guess who was there? Steve Scalise, who's been shot by a Democrat psychopath, a Bernie bro, some crazy Bernie bro. Rolled on up to the baseball field, the softball field where they were practicing, ran into, of course, then Representative Ron DeSantis, not Governor Ron DeSantis, but then Representative Ron DeSantis, and said, "Are those the Republicans over there?" And of course, Ron DeSantis, not knowing any better, said, "Yeah, that's the Republicans over there." And he walked to his car and drove away. The guy goes over to the baseball field, starts shoots Steve Scalise, who survives and is there. And Anna Navarro says, "Thank God that Congress experiences, because maybe now they'll pass some gun violence legislation." Does she not know that Steve Scalise knows about gun violence? Does she not understand that when it comes to the horrors of gun violence and terrorist activity, the Republicans are the ones that bear the brunt? Donald Trump has been shot at multiple times now, or at least been the target of multiple assassinations. Steve Scalise, as you pointed out, has also been shot. There have been multitudes of attempts to shoot or fire or bring guns into the White House. I mean, it is a constant. The Republicans are under constant threat. It's the Democrats that get off scot-free. In fact, it's the Democrats who, let's face it, they're the ones causing all the problems. These shootings, the school shootings in Minneapolis at the Catholic Center, the one in Tennessee, these transgender radicals, these people who write these crazy manifestos against President Donald Trump, these people, typically, the shooter at Brown, guess what? They're Democrats. They're brainwashed, woke DEI individuals who have some kind of grudge against the system. Maybe they don't like ICE. Maybe they're fighting for illegal immigrants. Who knows? That's what this guy, part of his beef was all about that. This school teacher turned wheelchair brake designer, failed wheelchair brake designer. I guess his wheelchair. I guess that wasn't his. I guess that wasn't his. I guess that wasn't his big break. But it's the left-wing media who's been poisoning the narrative. In fact, Donald Trump mentioned that in this. Donald Trump mentioned that in this interview he did. Do I have it here? Where is it? It's. Oh, here it is. Yeah, they asked him about it, and he said, "Yeah, it's basically the media is all bad." Oh wait, maybe I don't have it. I thought I had it. Oh wait, no, I'll get it here in a minute. But he did talk about. Wait, I thought I did have it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, listen.
You go back 20 years, 40 years, 100 years, 200 years, 500 years. It's always been there. People are assassinated. People are injured. People are hurt. And I'm not sure that there's any more now than there was. I do think that the hate speech of the Democrats, much more so, is very dangerous. I really think it's very dangerous for the country.
Yeah, it is. It's the Democrats. It's not a one-sided issue. This is Democrats stoke violence. Democrats are violent people. Democrats come out and tell their constituents that Republicans are evil, demonic, that they should be harmed in some way. Democrats are the ones that shove ICE agents aside and bust into secure facilities. Democrats are the ones that scream and yell, take to the streets. Democrats are the ones that call openly to target ICE agents. And the president of the United States, Dan Goldman, literally said that Donald Trump needed to be terminated. That's a direct quote from a Democrat congressperson. I mean, and then all of a sudden they're shocked and appalled when these kinds of things happen. Jamie Raskin was busted on this by Dana Bash on CNN. Listen to this. Dana Bash, surprisingly, spoke to Jamie Raskin about his vitriolic speech about President Donald Trump over the years. Listen to what Jamie Raskin said.
Yeah, and you have, as many of your fellow Democrats, have used some heated rhetoric against the president. And do you think twice about that when something like this happens?
What rhetoric do you have in mind?
Just talking about some of the fact that he, is terrible for this country and so on and so forth. I understand that that's your Democratic right, but overall, do you have a responsibility?
I have no personal problem with Donald Trump at all. I mean, I talk about the policies of this administration, the authoritarianism like we saw on display in Minneapolis, where 2 of our citizens were gunned down in the streets simply for exercising their First Amendment rights. Renee Good, Alex Preddy, and others have died in custody. I'm talking about policies. I don't personalize it, and I certainly have never called the press the enemy of the people. I think the press are the people's best friend, and that's why it's written right there into the First Amendment. We need the press to be a vigilant watchdog against every level of government, federal, state, local, all of it.
You're not going to get an argument from me on that. Before I let you go,
So Jamie Raskin wants you to believe that he has never said anything nasty or bad about President Donald Trump. He wants you to believe that he has no problem with President Donald Trump. He just doesn't like his policy, and there's no heated rhetoric on the left. You know what's amazing about that clip is that Democrats are furious with Dana Bash. Democrats are furious with Dana Bash for asking Jamie Raskin about it, for holding Jamie Raskin accountable, for saying, hey, bub, you're part of the problem. You've been talking smack about Donald Trump. You've been saying horrible things about Donald Trump for years. Don't you feel like maybe you should tone down the rhetoric? And Jamie Raskin goes, wait a minute, there's been no heated rhetoric from me, which is a blatant lie. And now people are mad with Dana Bash because she had the gall to ask a Democrat to tone down the rhetoric or apologize for their rhetoric. Dan Bongino was on Fox News. He said it perfectly. He goes, this is not a two-sided issue.
I think there's an assumption on the left where there's no shame in threatening the president's life on the left. So this isn't a both sides thing. So we can just cut that garbage out right now and just stop the nonsense. On the right, okay, on any respected kind of mainstream figure on the right, if you were to go out and even imply someone should be physically hurt on the left for their ideas, you're almost instantly shamed out of the movement. There is no such corresponding effect on the left. You just mentioned the name. I don't even want to mention this guy's name because he's such a zero. But he's out there implying that, physical violence is okay and is a means of fighting back against a man or systemic discrimination, whatever crap they throw out there. And not only, Rachel, is there no shame, you're welcomed in open arms on mainstream left-wing podcasts where they're like, hey, come on in and spew this bile out there. There is no such corresponding movement on the right. There is no both sides, folks.
Yeah.
Stop telling
yourself that. It's not a both sides issue. It's a one side issue. He's right about the liberal podcast. Who's the woman, the drunk mom, the drunk blonde Karen who cusses all the time, who's just horrible, says the worst things about, I forget her name. Jennifer Welch. That's her name. I don't even know I haven't seen her podcast clips in a while, but the ones that I saw of her before she disappeared off the face of the earth, well, I mean, were just ridiculous, like horrible. Just she made Jimmy Kimmel look like someone who's not horrible. I don't even like an altar boy or a choir boy or a cherub. Who knows? But it's amazing how much these people on the left, and the more on the left, and he's right about this too. If you're on the left and you tout anger or animosity or violence toward the president of the United States, especially Donald Trump, or really anyone else in his cabinet, there's a handful of people in his cabinet you're allowed to hate just as much. Pete Hegseth, for example. You're allowed to hate Pete Hegseth and wish bad things on Pete Hegseth. Kash Patel. You're allowed to badmouth Kash Patel, wish horrible things on Kash Patel. Before she left, Kristi Noem. Anybody involved really with ICE and Department of Homeland Security or the Department of Justice, any of those people, you could, Pam Bondi, that's another one. You could wish terrible, awful, no good, very bad things, just the worst plagues upon plagues and death and dismemberment on any member of Donald Trump's administration, and it would be okay. But not the other way around. If any Republican said anything about a Democrat, they'd be out. They'd be gone. They'd be ridiculed. They'd be ripped to shreds. They'd be voted out of office. And both parties, and here's the other thing too. This is the real double standard. When Democrats do it, like let's say somebody like Jimmy Kimmel goes on TV and says what he said, which he did. Democrats in Congress and in the media, they're not going to say anything negative about him. They're not going to say, it's a joke, First Amendment. I'm sorry, they're not going to say it's too far. They're going to say it's a joke, First Amendment. He has every right to do it. Grow up. He didn't threaten anybody. That's what they're going to say. Nobody is going to step up and say that was wrong. He needs to go. ABC needs to be held accountable. But on the right, if somebody did that, if Greg Gutfeld did that or somebody, there would be people in Congress and in the Senate and in the media that would say that was wrong. They could be Republicans and they would be like, he needs to apologize. He needs to be held accountable. He should come off of the air. All those things. But it's very one-sided. The Democrats, they always stick together. They always stick together, and they will continue to do and say things that are anti-American and that are threatening. And the spin and the propaganda, I got to tell you, pardon me, even articles, this is the thing about the Democrats and what they do, even articles that seem to be milquetoast and fair and balanced, you read a headline and you think to yourself, oh, this is just a news story. Case in point, the AP. Accused attacker at Washington media dinner is a tutor and computer engineer from California. Okay. Now, right off the bat, you look at that and you think, okay, accused attacker, that's true. At Washington media dinner, also true, is a tutor and computer engineer from California. All of those things on the outset seem to be true. If you read the story, which I'm not gonna subject anybody to an AP story, but if you read the story, it goes through and it tells you certain things about the shooter, alleged shooter, the accused attacker. It tells you things about his past, his history, everything else. But if you dig deeper, and you don't have the time to dig deeper, so we have a conservative AI that was constructed to do just this. And every time I report on a story, every time I report on a headline, the first thing I do is I run it through RightPen, which is powered by conservative AI, the only conservative AI there is. And you post the headline, you hit expose this. What happens is our conservative AI, RightPen, goes through, it takes a red magic marker, it takes a red pen to all of the lies, and it tells you exactly what they left out, because the media has tools and technology and teams of people that are working to do exactly what they do every single day. And that is create propaganda, and that is to brainwash people maybe not you because you're smart, maybe not me because I'm also smart, but maybe, the people that aren't as intelligent, to just brainwash them. Skimming headlines, they think, oh, this guy's just a teacher. Here's what they left out, according to our conservative AI, Right Pen. The article frames the suspect's anti-Trump writings sympathetically by calling them grievances, a word that implies legitimacy. That right there is so important. When you read this AP article or any article and they say, in his manifesto, he itemized certain grievances. Grievance is something that, if you have a grievance, a legitimate grievance, it basically is an excuse for your behavior. I have a grievance, so I'm bringing it to the attention of management. I have a grievance, so I'm writing to the police or to the authorities. I have a grievance, so I'm going to pull my kid out of public school and put him into private school or homeschool him. That's fine. But I have a grievance, so I'm going to take a train across the country armed heavily and start shooting people. That is not an appropriate reaction, and the word grievance adds legitimacy to his claims. The article omits any detail about victims who were harmed or endangered at the event. So they don't talk about the Secret Service agent who was shot. Thank God he was wearing a bulletproof vest, and apparently I read his cell phone stopped a bullet. I don't know if that's true or not. They didn't talk about any of the other potential victims who had to jump under the tables. Do you know Wolf Blitzer is 78 years old? He's 78 years old. He was standing in the lobby when the gunman started to shoot, and Secret Service jumped on top of him, collapsed him to the ground. Do you have any idea what could happen when a 78-year-old man is suddenly jumped on and pushed to the ground on a hard tile floor at the Hilton? Broken hips, busted ribs, God knows what else, get a heart attack. I mean, think about this. You've got a lot of people in that room who are older. Maybe they're not in the best shape. All of a sudden you hear gunfire. You see people running in with guns. They could have a heart attack. There were everyone in that room was a potential victim. Number 3, Right Pen, powered by conservative AI, says the boats because they talk about the Venezuelan drug boats described by the accused gunman were merely accused of drug smuggling. The boats described as merely accused of drug smuggling were targeted in confirmed U.S. counter-narcotics operations. They're trying to revisit the narrative that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth were killing fishermen instead of drug smugglers bringing fentanyl in from Venezuela. And the article leads with the suspect's benign profession as a tutor, a framing choice that softens the alleged attacker's profile before any attacks are established. That's exactly how they do it. The accused attacker is a tutor and computer engineer from Florida, not a deranged, psychopathic, manifesto writing whack job. No, he's a tutor and computer engineer from California. They also left out, by the way, that he is a failed wheelchair brake designer.
College student Cole Allen developed a prototype for a wheelchair emergency brake.
The wheelchair brakes tend to lock the wheels, but don't actually lock the chair to the ground.
No, so we've come up with a solution. It's a prototype right now to lock the wheels to the ground. Anyway, listen, that's I'm sure this guy's going to be arraigned here. They say I've been watching all the news channels. Breaking news: WHCA dinner suspect appears in court soon. It's been soon for like hours now. It's been soon for like 19 hours. We've been waiting for this guy to appear in court. So hopefully, eventually, he will appear in court before too long. By the way, if you'd like to try out our conservative AI called Right Pen, all you have to do is go to rightpen.ai and you can try it out for yourself. It's gold. We use it for X posts. We use it for news articles and headlines. You know what I was doing the other day? I was busting the narrative about Donald Trump. Not everyone, but a lot of people have been saying that this was staged. They've been saying this whole thing was staged. And there's a couple of reasons why they think this thing was staged. One of them is this phone call from a Fox reporter that got cut off. Hang on, I had it here, but it disappeared, which is weird because, here it is. So this is Aisha Hasni was sitting with Caroline Leavitt's husband at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and she was on the phone with Fox News right after this event happened. And she was trying to describe what happened, and her phone got cut off at the most inopportune time. So, of course, people immediately said this whole thing was staged.
I want to just quickly tell you, I was sitting next to Caroline Levitt, the press secretary's husband. He was one of our guests. He was seated right next to me. And, right as the dinner was starting, the national anthem happened. And then he kind of leaned over and said, I watched you on TV. You do a great job. You need to be very safe. And he was just very serious when he said that to me. And he kind of looked around the room and he said, there are some...
Sounds like we lost Aisha's phone there. And this happens, by the way, especially when you have so many people attempting to utilize the same cell service at the same time. I did want to add this while we had a moment.
Okay, so Aisha's phone dropped. She's talking about Caroline Levitt. He goes, you might want to be safe because, there's a lot of people around here, and click. It's gone. It's done. So that was one of the pieces of evidence that the conspiracy theorists brought to light about why this was staged. Caroline Levitt herself, before the event, made a comment to Jimmy Fallon. They were doing an interview, and where do I have it? I thought I had it. Hang on, I have it here somewhere. Caroline Levitt, they were doing an interview, and Caroline Levitt made a comment about President Donald Trump's jokes. And one of the comments she made about President Donald Trump's jokes was this one right here.
It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room.
Okay, now, clearly she's talking about the jokes that Donald Trump had, but I'll be honest with you, was she wrong? No. I mean, maybe they weren't fired in the room, but they were fired close to the room. They were in the hotel. So there's that. But Caroline Levitt. So now people are like, wait a minute. Caroline Levitt's husband is telling Aisha, what's her name, to be careful because there's a lot of people in the room who click. Then Caroline Levitt says there will be shots fired tonight. Click. Then this guy lets there's the video of the guy. Some people said that it looked like the guy jumped out of the way. There was a Secret Service agent who was, let me see if I have it here. There was a Secret Service agent, and somebody said it looks like the guy just jumped out of the way and let this dude run on by, which I didn't see it that way. I know some people could see it that way. I did not see it that way, but I'm gonna, where is it? Here it is. This is the videotape of the security cam from the lobby. And there's what I assume are Secret Service agents just hanging out there, milling around at this checkpoint. And then all of a sudden you see this figure come darting around and whew, he runs by, and one of the security agents jumps back out of the way and lets him run by instead of, I guess, jumping in front of him. Like, I guess what you should have done in this situation is if this guy comes darting around the corner, this guy sees him and jumps backwards instead of jumping in, like, or ducking down and having him trip. That would have been probably the move, right? The baller move would have been to just duck down and let this guy trip over you like you used to do with your friends. Where someone would, you'd have like one of your friends, you'd be outside, someone would bend over behind your friend and then you'd push them and they'd fall over. That was always typically that was me who got pushed over. But then once I actually got to do the pushing, it was kind of fun. Anyway, that's kind of what I guess they wanted you to do. So now there's multiple people in there and they're talking about, oh, is this thing with Donald Trump staged? And so what I did was I went to WritePen, and WritePen has what's called reply mode. And I went in here and I typed in the reply. It said, did Donald Trump stage the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting? And then I hit get replies. And what WritePen did was it went out and it searched the internet. It got all the information. And then it gave me 1, 2, 3 replies, which were just incredible. I'm not going to read them for you because I posted them on my social media. You can go find them, or better yet, you can just get WritePen for yourself and check it out because it's really truly amazing. Now I know what you're wondering. You're thinking to yourself, why on earth would Donald Trump stage this kind of attack? Why on earth would Donald Trump do this? He already won the election. When they said Butler, Pennsylvania was staged, they said Donald Trump did it for votes. Not that he needed votes. He was doing pretty well. Also, he was running against Kamala Harris. So, he got a lot of votes, but and so everyone's like, why would Donald Trump, why would he stage this? That doesn't make any sense. Some people, I think at first I thought maybe people thought Donald Trump staged it because he didn't want to deal with the pending jokes that were going to be coming his way, or he didn't want to deliver jokes and not get the laughs that he thought he would get because he was poking fun at the media. I thought maybe just maybe someone would say, Donald Trump did not want to be in the same room as these people that were going to be protesting, because there's this whole big movement to protest the Correspondents' Dinner, and he didn't want to look foolish, yada, yada, yada. And then Donald Trump went back to the White House after this whole debacle, and he gave a press conference. And at that press conference, he gave a gift to the conspiracy theorists. He basically gave them an opening. This is why people are now saying President Donald Trump staged this entire event.
And, we looked at all of the conditions that took place tonight, and I will say, it's not a particularly secure building. And I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room, and it's much more secure. It's drone-proof, it's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military are demanding it. They've wanted the ballroom for 150 years for lots of different reasons, but today's a little bit different, because today we need levels of security that probably nobody's ever seen before.
The ballroom. It all comes down to the ballroom. Donald Trump wanted this ballroom. And so now you've got all these liberals out there saying he staged this whole thing. He staged the whole thing so he could go back to the White House and demand that the ballroom be built. Fun fact, the ballroom's getting built. The ballroom is being built right now. The court, yes, there were back and forths in the court, but it's on the way. It's under construction. Donald Trump said it's ahead of schedule. He said, we're going to see, it'll be done by the time I'm out of office. But he's only going to have use of it for a couple of months. He's going to use it he's going to want something in there every week for a couple of months. But he said the ballroom it's coming along, and it's all paid for. And now that the court cases have been heard, we're rapidly building it. We're doing construction. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to have 4-foot thick bulletproof glass, all this amazing stuff. You're not even going to believe it. Drone proof, everything. We need it. And this incident proves it. And so now everyone thinks Donald Trump staged this so that he could build his ballroom, which already is being built. So I don't know, kind of pokes holes right through that theory. Hey, speaking of poking holes through things, there is a brand new congressional map in Florida that will be decided on tomorrow. Governor Ron DeSantis, you may remember after Virginia last week, after Virginia illegally and unconstitutionally held their referendum that changed their congressional district so that there would be one Republican district and 10 Democrat districts. After that happened, you may remember, so the court immediately shot it down. The court immediately said, this is unconstitutional. This violates everything. So what happened was the court shot that down. And Ron DeSantis said, we're going to call a special session for Tuesday, which is tomorrow. And he said, we're going to vote on a new congressional map. Nobody had seen the map. Nobody knew what the map was, didn't know which districts were being redrawn or reestablished or changed until today. And now, today, we finally get a look at the brand new congressional map for the state of Florida. And as you can see, there are just 4 blue districts. Just 4 out of 28 districts, 4 blue districts. There were 8, which means, oh, look at that. The 4 that they picked up in Virginia, they're just going to lose when this map in Florida gets changed. Now, here's what happens. It looks like, let's see, we have 10, 23, 20, and 24. 10, 23, 20, and 24. So District 10 is Maxwell Frost. So that clown job is staying. For whatever reason, they're not getting rid of his district. I'm fine with that. He's good for comic relief. He's good for jokes. He's a punchline. So it'll be fun to have him in Congress for at least a couple more years. So you got 10. Then you've got 20. 20 is currently vacant. And that's the one that Sheriff Lewis McCormick had to vacate because she stole all that FEMA money. Remember, she just resigned last week from Congress. So you got a vacant district. The Democrats feel like they're going to win that one, but that's really anyone's ball game. That could be a red district as well. Probably it'll go blue. Then you've got 21. Oh no, I'm sorry. What was it? It was 20 and 23 and 24. So then you've got 23, which is Jared Moskowitz. That guy's also kind of a clown. I'm pretty sure they kept him around again for the jokes. And then District 24, Frederica Wilson. Now, who do you lose? You lose District 9, Darren Soto. That's one Democrat gone. You lose District 14, Kathy Castor, that's another Democrat out the door. Then you lose District 22, Lois Frankel, see you, wouldn't want to be you. And then you lose District 25, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who has been in politics way too long. I mean, I'm talking way too long. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, nobody should be in politics as long as Debbie Wasserman Schultz has been in politics. It's just ridiculous. And so that's where we are right now. That's what we've got going on. We've got a redistricting map in play in the state of Florida, and they are going to get rid of 4 Democrat districts, and you're going to have a very, very, very red map. Now, as you can imagine, some people are not happy, like Hakeem the Dream Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries, who wrote, "The DeSantis dummy mander blatantly violates Florida's Fair Districts Amendment banning partisan gerrymandering. It also violates the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution by nakedly targeting communities of color. See you in court." It does not do any of those things, but whatever. That's the argument they're going to make because, well, they need to argue. I mean, if they are not arguing, they don't have. They've got really nothing. There's nothing else they can do. The DeSantis dummy mander blatantly violates Florida's Fair Districts Amendment banning partisan gerrymandering. That'll happen tomorrow. By the way, the special session is set for tomorrow, and tomorrow they're going to be meeting in Tallahassee, and they're going to be going over this map, and I imagine they'll be voting on it pretty quickly because TikTok, there's going to be a court battle, and of course we don't know what's going to happen in November. Maybe this will be the map, maybe it won't be the map, but either way, they're voting on it tomorrow. Now, CNN wrote DeSantis proposes new U.S. House map for Florida, aiming to flip 4 seats for Republicans. Of course, this is a long article, which, as you can imagine, the headline seems totally nonpartisan. But if you run this through RightPen, if you take the URL and you go to our conservative, AI, and if you say, "Hey, do me a favor, let me know." Wait a minute, where is it? If you go to our conservative AI and you post the URL directly and you hit expose this, it'll run through the entire article and it will, I think I signed out. It'll run through the entire article for you and it will show you exactly where the lies are. It will show you exactly what they did and how they've basically hidden the truth. And it'll show you, where did it go? Oh, I'm gonna have to sign back in because hang on. I'll sign back in just a minute and we'll run it through. But basically what it does is it tells you everything you need to know about what's happening with Florida redistricting. And it tells you the truth. It tells you how, even though these articles seem nonpartisan, they are 100% totally partisan. And that is something that is a tool of the left. And that is why we created RightPen AI. So now we have our own tools to combat the propaganda and the spin and the lies. Listen, there's a lot to follow. There was a press conference while we were going live, and we just had too much to talk about. We didn't get a chance to take it live, but we will bring you the highlights of that press conference tomorrow. We'll find out if there's any more flack or anything that happens with Jimmy Kimmel and ABC and Melania Trump. And of course, tomorrow's the big session in Florida for redistricting. So we'll let you know what happens with that. In the meantime, if you would like to check out RightPen AI for yourself, it's rightpen.ai, the conservative AI that gives you the receipts to fight back with the truth. There's a link in the description of this video of the show notes so you can get it there. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe to this channel, subscribe to this podcast so that every day, whether it's a Saturday night at 8, whether it's a Sunday afternoon, any other time during the week when you need to know the truth, any other time during the week when news is breaking and you need to get the actual realistic reporting on it and not the liberal slanted version, we're going to be here for you. We are going to be bringing you the truth all the time. And we're like, literally, I post more stuff. Somebody the other day was like, "Man, you post a lot." And I go, ain't that a fact? I probably post too much, but it's because there's so much news and there's so many lies and there's so many things that you need to know about. So subscribe to this channel, hit the ding-a-ling. Make sure if you're listening to the podcast that you tell Apple Podcasts or Spotify, whomever, I want more of Mark K Saves the Republic. I want it every single day. I want it on weekends. I want it on weeknights. I want to stay informed. I want to stay enlightened. I want to stay inspired so that I will always be ready to fight so we can save